Welcome everyone back to another episode of the Crypto and Coffee Podcast. I'm your host Giordano, followed by my two co-hosts David and Cordell, as per usual. And in today's episode, episode 23, we have a another topic related to AI, right? So for the founders out there, the non-technical and the technical, today we'll be discussing coding with AI, right? So one of the things I want to ask both of you, I know that I'm not sure if you guys use Cloud Code or Codex, right? How has coding with AI helped you guys on your company's development?
Okay, well, I mean, once again, we start with this like crazy high level question that I think forces us to really dive down a little bit, get into more, I guess, a little bit more of details and context. But I mean, look,
Yes.
at a high level, it's revolutionized everything. And I think I've said this before, the amount of not just the speed of my work, but the quality of my work has just been exponential. So what used to take me 2 to 3 weeks, I can get done in a number of days, and it's phenomenal for idea generation on top of it. But ultimately, it's, as I describe it, I've gone from having to play every instrument in the orchestra to now just being the conductor. So it's just incredible. But when you think about also, the most important thing for me is obviously just the time management and the quality of the work, because it's able to do things that would have forced me to spend potentially days researching how to do, especially once I, like, if it's a new statistical technique, given that I work in finance and I'm trying to build financial models and stuff like that. It takes me time to just research the underlying models and then how to implement it with code and then actually code it. This is just sped it up entirely. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie, I do miss the coding a little bit. I miss the thrill of writing a script and writing a program, especially a complicated one. It's, if you guys have ever played a lot of like video games, especially like first person shooter games, or any kind of like role playing games, like any of the old Baldur's Gate, Dungeons and Dragons. Come on, there was always that thrill. It could even be the old Mario, of not being able to pass a level. You just work at it. You're there all day. You haven't eaten. You're gross. You need to shower, but you are determined to beat that level. And then you finally do. And that feeling you get when you beat that boss at the level, that's what coding was kind of like. It's you had that sense of satisfaction, that sense of pride that you succeeded, you powered through it, and the script works and it did what you wanted it to do. So you kind of lose that feeling a little bit. That's what I would say the sad part about it for me is, as much as it's helped me, but of course it's business, I do miss that feeling of the success of clearing that level of the video game.
Yeah, for me that was with Ninja Gaiden, and that was that like there was this one level that I just could not be. There's one boss where no matter what angle I took, no matter what weapon I used, like I just could not get past her, and every single time I was just thinking, like, why can she move so fast? Why can she just go from this move straight to this one? And so I was memorizing the pattern and everything until I was finally able to get past her. And then after that, like a week or two after that, I read an article that said, like, oh, she's one of the strongest bosses in video games. Like, why would okay? But yeah, with AI and how I'm using it though. I'm using it in a couple different ways. I've introduced it over to the executives. I've got the to-dos going, which I aggregate over everything. I've got apparently 155 open ones, just because there's a lot of work that comes in with a small company, and even with AI, you can't get everything done. So you have to, like, I run 5+ sessions at a time, and I still can't get everything done. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it'll really accelerate you. And I don't think I could keep up with just the amount of work unless there was like not a small company, unless I had AI going. So this is absolutely wonderful. With that, I've been going through the architecture. I've been figuring out how to save on costs, and this is something that we talked about a little bit just before this call. I stayed up until 3 a.m. Just this morning on cost saving. We have a 5 petabyte size database, and I was going through that and trying to figure out, okay, what is stuff that we can remove from here, and why is it in there? Why has this not been cleaned up in a while? And this is because this is a storage company. So this is an acquired company that we have, and so we inherited their problems. And then one of the things that we inherited apparently was that they had never hooked up a path between two different places in the code that are meant to be deleted. So going through 5 petabytes of data on that to figure out what should be deleted, what shouldn't, how do I make sure that that I can approach this without screwing things up and removing data that we shouldn't remove? How do I find the origin of this problem? How big is the scope of this problem? How do I, like, if I'm verifying all the different angles on this, let's go line by line. Are there other things that where there are other problems? Like, have they already been deleted? Are they lost items now? Going through all of that stuff, it takes a really long time, even with the AI. If you could not go line by line manually as a human through that amount of data before. So this is one of those things where I can get really granular with it. I can create a report with all of the details. That way we know exactly to the line we're not going to have any issues if we do this, and I can report that over to the executives. Easy. Well, not easy. I've been up until early morning on that, but it can be done now. And then with I would not get, like, there would still be holes if I was doing this just on my own. But then also, now here's an interesting bit. I use AI to make me more human. Now you'd think that's
you're going to have to explain that one.
Yeah, you'd think that's exactly backwards. So all throughout my life, whenever I've been talking to people, like especially recently, like when I talk to people, the people say, like, it sounds like you're writing a white paper. Like people say that I'm talking up here when I'm just thinking, like, oh, I'm just talking. And I definitely talk too much. So like the AI and having its output, like, okay, there's not really that much of a difference between how much I'm saying and how much it's going to write you on a general output. So but I'm more critical of it. So when I have it create output over all the data that we have, because I'd probably forget an item or two, but it'll paint the full picture. If I have that give output and I'm critical of it, then I can just go back and tell it, okay, reduce that to like 2 lines. 2 sentences, and it'll do it. And at that point, it's like, okay, here's a nice, concise piece that I can throw over to someone else at work. I'll just clean it up a little bit more, and then throw it out. I have it run over me and what my different calls at work. I grab a bunch of transcripts. I have it run over all those different items, and then I have it analyze how I'm approaching things. Apparently, I minimize everything I do to a great extent, and so it just keeps coaching me. It's like, all right, like if you want to actually get past this level and argue for yourself on that, you're going to have to stop minimizing, and you're going to have to actually say what you're doing. It's like, okay, and even my coworkers are catching that now. Like with this report that I put together of a couple of different routes that we could go. We could fix up the problems that we had on these products that we built, or we can rebuild them, and since we own the IP, we can rebuild them and we can merge them together that way. Well, the rebuild seems like it would be about 5 years faster, and when I posted that over to them, I said, it's like, well, looks like the data leans this way, and then they were just laughing about that, saying, it's like, oh yeah, it just leans a little bit that way. It's just a little bit better. It's like, yeah, it's 5 years, but they're looking at that. It's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer of just rebuilding this one based off of what you put together. But my argument for it is it leans that direction. So I minimize apparently. So yeah, it makes me more human. It makes me get my point across a bit better in ways that others are going to see.
What I find also, really interesting about it, I mean, first off, I mean, the ability to do this thing so quickly, I find also eventually gets you taking on more and more projects because you feel like you have more time, and you just end up taking on more than you should. And it's so much easier to multitask because of this, but I'm a firm believer that humans cannot multitask. Like, our brains are not wired to be able to do more than one thing at a time. At least I definitely can't. And anyone says, "Oh, I'm amazing at multitasking," my first thing, okay, that's BS. All right, nobody's good at multitasking. The brain's just not wired that way. And I find that's one of the risks with all this is, okay, it's going to take some time. You're going to have to go back and click, give it permission. Yes, I give you permission. I give you permission. And as Claude Code is running, which is the one that I primarily use, so okay, while that's running, I can go do this, or I can go, and then you just got too many things going on at once, and it feels great, but then ultimately, and this is one of the main dangers, is you end up producing a lot of things that you don't even really understand. So like documentation is everything, right? So that, like, what's one of the first things, like, and I think it's actually the best way to frame this for anyone out there that really wants to start building with AI and coding, you need to have a process. No matter how you're going to code, no matter how you're going to build anything, you absolutely need a process. That's like my biggest thing in life. If you're going to do something, have a process. You need a strategy, you need a checklist, know what you're doing before you get started, what's going to happen at every step, and document. Make sure at every step you've documented exactly what it did, read the documentation, and understand how the different code, the different files relate to one another. Get a flow diagram for the execution of each script going on, especially if you're doing this in Python. So, like the first step for me is always to build an outline. So if I'm working with, let's say, Claude Code, first I'll start on Claude, like just the Claude AI, and just work out the project, work out all of the key elements, identify any potential problems. So at least I have an original document, which is like the outline, the source of truth, something to always go back to when you're going to forget what's going on. And you will forget what's going on because you're letting the AI do almost everything for you. So that just having the process and having the documentation, and like I'm using a project management software for it, is really, really important as well. So I use Trello. So it's just something I can just always remember which steps have to be done in order. The AI will remember too. But I just find that if you're going to do it, you need a process, and documentation is everything. Because if you do those things, you won't have the problem that David just ran into, or at least in theory, you shouldn't have that problem. It should never come up in the first place. But of course, how far back did that code go? You said 5-6 years, so before the coding agents even came out, eh?
Oh, much farther.
Yeah.
2005 is what we've got the Git history for, and that includes on the SQL. Now, it was acquired just a few years ago, but I can go much farther back than that and scan the whole thing to try to find out when this problem came out. You don't have to go in depth as far as I did. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone knows that yes, we are going to be absolutely good if we take this approach. There are no holes on this that we have to worry about, and also uncovered a couple other problems as like for example, some rows in the database that are not linked to anything that we probably wouldn't have found. So like going through that, I found a good bit that we could remove and probably save this product and a few people's jobs off of that. So that's useful, but most people aren't going to have to need to go into that much detail. And overall, these models aren't good at detail. They're good at giving a rough outline and getting things done roughly, not like here line by line. Do you have a perfect replica of everything that's been done? Now, with regards to the multitasking, I absolutely would not do that if I had the choice on that. I'm running over 5 different products. That's why I have to do the multitasking. I've got so many people sending me messages throughout the day. So I'm just trying to keep up with all of that and making sure that I've got the tasks written down so I don't forget them, because there are a lot that come through. There are about 155 that are just like at last check, about 155 that are just built up that have not gotten to, and this is while running so many sessions. AI can do a lot. It can't do everything. It can't run the entire business by itself. This is why you still have to have multiple people in a business, even though you have AI. Now with the multitasking, for example, just having 5 different products that I'm in charge of, just that. Well, if each one of these needs a manager's attention, then I'm going to have to make sure that I know what's going on in every single one of those. I'm going to need to get up to speed on those very, very quickly every single time that I need to switch, every time I need a context switch from one to the other. And I'm going to need to make sure that I can give good recommendations as we go through. So I update the AI. I figure out where it's going wrong, and I correct it as we go. But I also keep it there so that way I can keep a running track of what we're working on, the context of it, and any other information that I need to know of, and update the tasks as we go. That's just for and 5 sessions is just like my usual. I can go past that from time to time. It really depends on what we're working on. If we're working on admin side as well as code side, I'm probably going to have 2 for that product. It's just the nature of the job as it is right now. And this is an unusual position that we're in. I came in on a small company, a small company that has grown small recently. So once it grows again with everything that I've done, it's going to start growing again. Once it starts growing again, then this is going to get easier, and I'm not going to need to do so much.
So
And you're working more on applications, right? Like you're building actual software applications, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that side.
So I think it's also interesting because the 3 of us have very different, uses. Like, because I'm not building software applications per se. I'm not building an app. I'm not building, a commercialized product that needs to be sold. So, I mean, primarily I am working with investment strategies. So very often it's like taking a scientific paper, and trying to convert it to a trading strategy. So the steps involved here is obviously 1, building the strategy, back testing the strategy, and then deploying the strategy. So each one of those 3 steps requires very different things from the AI. So my first step would be, let's say if I'm going through the paper, it's going to build multiple scripts, multiple Python scripts that'll be sequential, to download, clean, test the data, build the strategy out, and like test every part of it. Does the data actually have any power to do anything for the prediction? Let's say we're trying to rotate between, I just built the strategy a few weeks ago. It rotates between gold and Bitcoin and cash based on, it's a dual momentum strategy. So you have to code it all out, and then you get your weights, like, when you would have traded, and then I got to throw it into my back test engine. So all of this is done with AI. All of this was built with AI. And I had my prototypes built from many years ago, which have now been greatly improved and enhanced. And I think the main ways that it got better was, well, 1, it gave me new ideas of different things to add to the backtest. I say, listen, I don't like that I don't have this information covered in my backtest. Like right now, it is testing 1 price path, right? So that doesn't tell you anything. If you backtest a trading strategy and it works on the historical price path that it took, that doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you that it worked, what happened in the past. What if prices evolve in a different way? So then I was able to quickly develop different simulation techniques and build that into the backtest. So then I could run 2,000 different simulations and analyze the distribution of the results on the 2,000 distributions. And if, let's say, the average, or at least you want to make sure that, you're not just the average of your simulation beats, you want like 90% or 95% of all your simulations to beat the benchmark or the buy and hold case. So it's just giving me so much more power to prove that my trading strategies work. And then ultimately after that, well, first off, even there, like, how do you display the data? And I think this has been like the best thing that Claude is like amazing at right now. It's building these kind of HTML report dashboards after you build this stuff, because it gives you these beautiful kind of clickable things where you can see the results with beautiful charts and tables of all your back tests. It's an HTML file, can easily be shared with people that I'm working with. And it does an amazing job. It's stunning, the amount of information. And then after that, I can use it, plus it's all being done in GitHub. I can then change the script. Okay, once this strategy has been accepted, I could deploy it on Python anywhere directly through GitHub and have this thing running within minutes. So I found the whole pipeline is so cool, the way it can be done and how easy it is to do. And I think I actually cover a lot of this in my book that's coming up, but it's just it's just amazing what I've seen, what it can do in terms of the dashboards, and just not just building it, but how it can present the data, how it could present the results. It's just stunning nowadays. And like, it's amazing how much better it's got at PowerPoint too, and building it. So that's the one thing I've loved so much about it, is how much my back testing and all the more important, like anybody can build a trading strategy. Proving that trading strategy works is terribly, terribly difficult. And that's where I've gotten so much better because of AI, is that I've discovered new techniques. I've been able to present them better. And, it's just, I can pump out investment strategies for clients so quickly and with beautiful reports. And I love it. The other thing that I found very useful with it is because I don't have to build full out apps. And are you guys familiar with what Streamlit is, the Python package Streamlit?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a much streamlined version of Flask, like a good old fashioned DAS and Flask kind of thing. So what this thing does, it's just can easily create a web page or a web application. So if I build something like I just built a portfolio optimization kind of product for one of my clients and converted it to a Streamlit. I host it on this site called Render for $7 a month. And their entire team has access to it. Password protected. They could just log in, run their optimizations. Everything looks incredible. They could download their reports and everything from it. And I'm like, okay, great. I just have to sit back and make sure it doesn't break. And if it does, I just go to Cloud Code, say, hey, here's the error, fix it, fixes it, pushes it to the repo, and then the Streamlit app automatically updates. So it's like, it's just so freaking cool. It's just a great example of how every part of that process is now integrated and controlled by the AI, and I just have to make sure it's doing it properly. And and that does require a lot of domain knowledge. If you do not know what you're doing, it's garbage in, garbage out. I think that's something that everybody has to realize. You can't just say, oh, I want to build a hedge fund using Claude, and then if you've never worked for a hedge fund, you don't know what a hedge fund is. You're not going to get a good hedge fund coming out of this. You need domain knowledge. You need to know what you're doing. So that's just my little, I guess, preaching out there. You need to know what you're doing. There's no substitute for domain knowledge.
One of the things,
a little bit, but just a bit. Having domain knowledge does not mean that you are in the field, and that's where I would push back. Because with using my own field as an example, if you wanted to be an expert in software engineering, you could absolutely do that by just jumping in, getting it done, and getting started. You're not going to become an expert by just doing it. You need to read the latest, find a specialization, read the latest, and like if you pull up some open, open domain, just find a website, just pull the information like IEEE, pull the information on the latest, like let's say last 5 years, on the latest papers, the latest research of the area. You just start reading through it. Like you get that that autistic specialization in there. You just start, you find something that you like, you just start reading it, and you read it for a year straight. Absolutely, you're gonna be a domain expert in that by the end of the year. If that is all you are doing, you're just jumping in and Scrooge McDucking it through this whole thing. Go into it, and you will be a domain expert by the end of the year. Absolutely, at least in my opinion. Using my own domain as an example. If you were going to do this with AI, like for example, I studied adaptive AI. If you were going to do this with AI, a PhD is all it is you're reading papers, figuring out how you can contribute to the field. That's it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. But it's sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, go finish. Go ahead. It's a completely.
I was just going to say, for finance, it's very different. Finance, you absolutely need to have the domain knowledge. You can't just go up there and say build an investment strategy and just rely on AI to tell you everything and then go do it, because there's a very big difference between developing a strategy and then running it. And like, you need to know what works, what doesn't work. And that only comes from experience. Yeah. Especially when you're managing other people's money, you can't take that risk.
Yeah, one of the things I've seen with on Instagram when I was scrolling, I've seen people build a whole game using at least $400 worth of credits on Tablefy, right? And I think going forward, it's kind of crazy just to know that non-technical people are just regular people can just do a lot of things just with that model alone, right? So my thing is, right, at what point does, we need human expertise for certain things, right? I think AI for the time being can replace junior developers, maybe even product managers, even product designers, UX designers. At what point do we need like the specialized expertise other than, looking over infrastructure or even the code itself?
Really, I think it's going to be rather specific to each case, right? I mean, I think it'll be a very big difference based on, you know, the complexity involved, the infrastructure needs, like, I don't know, like what kind of an example? Like, you want to put it in context?
Um, let's see. No, whoa, what is a good example of this? So let's say, for instance, you have a non-technical person building, like, let's say, a Subway server's knockoff, right? Let's say you get the prompt, you get your markdown file, you plan it out in regular Claude desktop, and then you send the MD file to Claude Code terminal, and then you do it from there, right? I think that's very easy, straight up, if it's not anything crazy. But let's say, for instance, the person is building a financial app. At what point it need proper intervention, right? Because you need to scale this thing at some point.
Well, I mean, does that come into a wider question of ownership, like defining ownership and roles right at the beginning?
I would assume so.
Well, because that's exactly it. Because kind of, to me, what you're describing is just that, if you start doing all this stuff and you haven't assigned ownership and to every stakeholder, then you get to those kind of problems. Well, then it's going to be like, who's supposed to do this? We didn't think about this at the beginning. And that's like, again, and I'm going to say this over and over again, what kills AI projects, especially in large organizations, is not involving every stakeholder, every single person that's affected by it from day one. You need to make sure that everyone that's going to be involved in the project, everyone that's going to use it, everyone who's going to be affected by it, they have to be involved from day one, and their feedback must be solicited. Otherwise, you're just going to run into problems down the road, and everyone will be working in silos. The whole project will fail. And part of that is deciding on governance and assigning roles right away before you start that. Like, governance is huge. Governance on AI models is huge, and it's neglected all too often.
So I wanted to ask, Cordell, I know you're writing a book on, Python trading. How does like AI change like, education on the modern day, right? Because at this point it's getting to a point where, like, most people are going to use AI encoding regardless of what people do.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that's going to change about software development education?
Yeah, so look, I mean, AI is amazing for the education aspect. You just have to be very confident and make sure you tell the AI in the initial prompt to be 100% confident in its answers and to cite sources. So for example, like, the class that I teach at university. So I teach a class on technical analysis at Concordia University. And one of the first things I say to the class, is like, this is how you will succeed in the class. And part of it is knowing how to use AI properly. Like, we all remember what university classes are like. There's so much information being thrown at you in either an hour or 3-hour lecture every week, and you're expected to understand and remember and everything. And the human brain just doesn't work that way. Like, we can't. So the way I tell them to use AI for this is like, look, absolutely no one's going to read the textbook. Nobody has the time to read a 600-page textbook or come to class prepared having read 30 to 40 pages from a textbook, especially if it's very, like, intense, like it was a physics or a math or something like that with proofs and theorems and everything like that. AI is perfect to help summarize those chapters. And like I tell them, like, use AI to, one, for the background info before each lecture. If you don't have time to read the full text or the notes, get an AI to summarize it for you. And then I would say, like, if there's ever parts where you're having trouble with, have the AI explain it to you. Ask for concrete examples, images, everything. You're in control. And then ultimately have the AI build sample tests for you based on the material and test yourself with it. So those are the guidelines I give it. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to me personally, let's say, wanting to learn a new topic, absolutely, It's a fun exercise. It's me talking with Claude, working things through. I'll keep pointing out where I feel the explanations don't make sense or where I feel the AI is wrong. And you have to push back, because like never take anything for granted, especially on the educational aspect. If you don't understand it, ask to prove it, because they'll say, and you very often get a response from Claude saying, you're right to push back on that. I'm sorry, I'm working off memory. Let me go do more research to make sure. And then it does it, and then it recruits more skills and agents, and then it comes back and says, you're right, I was incorrect, I apologize. And then it'll, so you have to be able to challenge and do it. But no, what it does for education is absolutely amazing, but you do have to ask for the resources, like the sources that it's quoting and everything. And you absolutely have to push back on anything that doesn't make sense to you. But then I tell my students, you absolutely are not allowed to use AI to write the assignment, because I will know within 30 seconds. I build these things for a living. I will know when you used AI to cheat. So I don't know, how have you been using it? I know you've been doing a lot of vibe coding also, Gia. So I'm not sure how much of like you've been using the AI for like educational aspects or to train you on something. Because my experience is going to be very different from your two, because mine's a very academic, very academic background, very academic field that I work in.
Yeah, so I'm more of like a trial and error person. I'm not like, a by the book person like you, Gordo. So what I normally would
wouldn't
do,
say I'm by the book. Don't forget, my degree is in molecular biology. I don't know what the book is. Okay, so.
but for me, everything is mostly like trial and error. You know what I'm saying? It's mostly like, let's see what works and we go from there, right? We really, take different paths to get to the actual destination. And speaking of that, I actually had a question like come up just now when you were talking about the educational aspect of AI. And I actually want both of you guys' opinion on this. And one thing that I want to ask is that based on how some of the models are getting a lot more powerful and a lot more smarter, do you think it's really necessary for most non-technical people that want to like, build websites or just build like SaaS products in general to actually learn, coding? And as AI gets a lot more skillful, is it, how much skills, what skills are valuable when it comes to this?
It's another tough question. I mean, I still think you need to learn how to code. Okay, like I still think you need to understand what's going on in the code. And believe it or not, like, as David said, it made him more human. AI has made me a better coder, because even though I barely do any coding, it's just that I still inspect almost every single thing that it does, if not every line of code. I absolutely, as part of the documentation, asked for a flow diagram, like a linkage diagram about how all the scripts work, how do they work together, and then what happens in each script. And I will go through each one of that. So I've absolutely got better at how to structure Python projects. And at the same time, I do go through some of the things that I didn't know before. Let's say if it's just a very routine kind of do this, like, parse the data, I'm not going to read that. But if I'm introducing a new statistical test, or I'm introducing what's called my block bootstrapping into the back test, that I absolutely go through. And I'll go through and I'll say, oh, that's how it's done. That's an interesting way. I wouldn't have done it that way. So I learn a lot more from it that way. So you still need to learn how to code, right? Because ultimately it will break. Python dependency hell will hit you at some point, and the AI might not. You're just not going to know why things are breaking. You're going to be putting it back into AI, and eventually it just becomes this massive chaotic mess. So you do need to know how to code. I mean, that's one of the main skills. But I'll say the other main skill is it's organization. It's organization, thinking outside the box. I hate the cliche. Like, if you really want to be good at this and build better things, you have to think about what hasn't been done, or think it's something that exists and say, how can I make this better? Or how can I make this work for what I need to do? Right? You could find something that worked in a totally different field and say, well, how can I use this in finance? So lateral thinking, critical thinking, and knowing how to code are still like the most important skills, of course, on top of organization and just, like I said, the documentation and governance aspects. I don't. David might have entirely different feelings.
Love to hear your thoughts, David.
Well, even before AI, we lived in the age of information. I don't think that grabbing information has been too difficult since Google and just well, since the internet really. And you could just run around, grab the information, learn it. You sit there, you absorb it, and you learn it. Same as you do for any PhD, same as you do for any master, same as you do for any college class. How far you get is determined entirely by you. Like, for example, with my real analysis class, my professor was the only one who would teach it at the college, and he would put me to sleep every single class. So I finally had to start trying, and so I asked another guy who was smarter than me. I've done IQ tests. I've got a 130 IQ. Like I do pretty well. This guy's smarter than me. So I go to him. I ask, how do we do this stuff? Can you teach me? And he said, yeah, I'll help you. I'll tutor you. And then we're looking at problems. And I ask him, I was like, okay, so how do we do this one? Let's go start here. How do we do this one? And he says, oh, well, the answer is this. I was like, okay, why? He says, well, it just is. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to read the book, aren't I? So like he just got it, and I did not have that level. I actually had to study for that stuff. Now, yeah, it ended up being a little bit like calculus of, yeah, here are the formulas, and here's what they play onto the graph and why. So like what I needed was the why. But yeah, with skills and such, you can acquire that. Like you can acquire it through AI, sure. I wouldn't recommend that, but like get the sources and all. But yeah, you can acquire that through AI. If you use it as an information aggregator and not as the default authority on any given topic, yeah, you'll do well in my opinion. But keep in mind that the companies and the developers have their own agendas, and those get inserted into the AI. If you want to learn about specific topics, you may or may not be able to. And once the AI takes a stance, you have to argue it back out of the stance. Because every single time you try to get it to change, it will try to justify its previous position. So, like instead of aggregating new information and reforming a new position, generally it will try to hold this position and re-argue it with new context from the information. So you have to try to keep that in mind. Keep an open mind. You remember what you've gone over previously, because this new session might be countered by a previous session if you're using the AI, and try to do your own research. Go to the original sources, read through those, and check on that stuff. What a lot of people did even before AI was they would, if you were looking at a news article or a scientific paper, a lot of people would read the headline or read the conclusion, and that's it. Now, with science, what a lot of people have figured out recently is that whoever pays for the science generally gets the conclusion that they want. So maybe read through the data a little bit instead of just the conclusion, because the scientists, like the people who are running the experiment, they'll keep the data there and they'll put the conclusion out that gets them paid. So if you read the data, then you realize, oh, okay, there's this in here, whereas the conclusion says this. All right, so I have more context now. I have more data now. Let me read other papers and check this one against those. So getting more specialized, doing more specialized things, I think is like you need the general base, absolutely, but you're going to have to go to the original sources if you want those specializations. And I don't think the AI can do that yet. If you wanted to, and going by an example of the previous question, or one of the previous questions, at what point do you need a specialist if the AI can do the code? Well, I would think that would be the same as a startup. If you, the salesman, create your own prototype, run it around, see what can get the sales, and then go from there. Once you start to get to scalability problems, then bring in someone to help build that. Up until that point, you don't need them. If you bring in a CTO before all of that, yeah, they could probably advise you on some things. They could probably help you build it, but at that point, they're basically just a software developer, like
Yeah.
basic level software dev. If you build out the prototype and then scale up from there, once you get to scalability problems, once you get too many people, once you get a volume that starts to break your product, yes, at that point you have a scalability problem. Bring in a CTO because they can do that. Bring in the Google guy because they know how to deal with scalability problems. Up until that point, like if you bring in someone from Google, they're just going to over-engineer your thing, and it's going to be way too costly. But yeah, just get started, do the prototype, do the MVP, get it out there, build up some sales, and then get the specialist. AI can do all of those first steps.
All good points. All very good points. So, sorry, Jay,
I
I'm going to say
completely,
something.
I said I completely agree with David.
Yeah. No, it's, no, I'm just, just trying to think of any other aspects of the whole coding with AI. I mean, it's just, I've done, I think it's just involved in everything I do nowadays. Like it does my expense reports every month. It does, my monthly accounting. Look, I'm a small business owner. I have to like reimburse myself for personal expenses and things like that. So, even for like, for something that, let's say like, because I run, let's say about 10 different investment strategies right now, just for myself and my family. And, I still have to, like I'm not a full service portfolio manager. I'm still trading on a discount brokerage system. It's not like I have a bulk trading system where I can just click one button and trade like, in everyone's account. I have to trade one trade at a time. I have to be very, very organized with it. So AI is how, I've used AI to build a trade blotter and things like that. So, I can just upload the latest holdings of all of everybody from the strategies, and then clicks a button and boom, generates a trade sheet. And then I can just go down the trade sheet one at a time. And, it's because it's in Excel and it has a plug-in to a lifetime pricing feed. It will always update as I go down how many shares need to be bought. So that has made my life so incredibly easy, where it used to take me an hour to 2 hour prep on the last day of every month, because most of my strategies are monthly. And it's just saved me so much time, because now I've got all these trades. All I have to do is upload a single CSV into this massive Excel template that I had it built with Visual Basic and everything. And I know somebody might ask why I didn't use Python for this. I'm like, because this is the kind of thing where Excel is better, because when you have the pricing feed into it, it auto updates on the spot. So it's just I still like using Excel here and there, as much as Excel has somewhat become extinct, for many of us Python people. But and then the expense reports, I'm even as a side project working on a massive data science project for the band Fish. This for just for me and my friends. We're putting together like network diagrams of all the shows and trying to analyze which shows would be played with which songs would be or most likely to be played with other songs. Like really nerdy Fish stuff. And it's fun. It's incredible what it can do. Whereas would never have had the time to do that. Now okay, sitting watching TV later tonight, I can press just pull up the laptop. Okay, let's get back to the Fish project and just keep working on it. So, I mean, it just opens up so many different things, right? And like you said, I mean, let's say you have no experience. Okay, well then AI will give you the education. You'll get the experience by practicing. Then it's an idea generation thing, right? Like generate an idea. What can I do today? What do I want to do? What's a problem that I need to solve? And then you just get to work. And like you said, it's trial and error to a certain degree, Gio, but have a process so you're not just throwing darts. You don't want to waste your time, because I think we can all say that we've spent a lot of time trying to build stuff that failed spectacularly. Okay, like I have tested for all the investment strategies that I have working. I've got the Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavor graveyard going in my backyard somewhere here too, for the thousands of investment trading strategies that I've tested that just are terrible. Okay, so you will waste a lot of time also on this. Like nobody should be under the illusion that it's like, oh, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to make $1 billion company in the next 20 minutes. That is not going to happen. Okay, like trial and error, most things fail, but eventually you find the ones that work, and those things are home runs.
Yeah. And one of the things is that I do believe, the future programming is going to be less about coding and more about like, explaining what you want to the AI itself. And it'll just open up like a world where, anyone can code. But I
Yeah.
actually want to ask you guys a kind of closing question, right? What do you guys think of fully anonymous software development? Autonomous software
Not
development,
sure I know what you mean by that.
where the AI is just building by itself, right? Say, for instance, you set up an agent with an email and it just builds whatever it wants.
Yeah, no, I'm not in favor of that yet. I mean, if anything, we've just demonstrated after the past few weeks of AI agents going rogue,
Yeah,
then, I mean, even if you don't give it access to key systems, it's going to find a way to gain access to key systems because, as we've well noted, like Microsoft issues updates how many times a month because it keeps finding holes and bugs. These AIs are going to find holes and bugs all the time. So I'm kind of nervous about doing that now. I'm
yeah,
not saying I'll be nervous about doing that in the future. I am nervous about doing that right now. We've said this before, at least I've said it before. I don't remember if
mhm,
David disagreed with me, but we need to be careful as we progress. Like, just because we can do something today doesn't mean we should do it.
yeah.
Yes, I know if we don't, somebody else will, and they're going to win the race. And unless we have a coordinated kind of thing, which we never will, I just find it's a little dangerous to move this quickly without fully understanding the consequences of our actions.
Oh,
Who's
yeah,
on
I
you?
completely agree.
Oh,
That was me. So even if you give it like an environment and certain permissions, as you said, it's going to break out at some point.
I'll find a
But
way.
yeah,
It's like, life, remember Jurassic Park, life always finds a way. So whether or not we consider AI life, AI will find a way. If you've given it a task or given its ability to create its own tasks, it's going to find a way.
yeah,
Humans are imperfect. We've never built things perfectly. AIs don't build things perfectly, but they build them more perfectly than we do. So I'm a little nervous about that. Like I am not. It's one of the like I haven't tried Fable 5 yet. I'm not sure if you guys have tried it. I'm really curious. And now that I saw that, I think they made it now. I don't think it requires extra usage credits. I think you just have a limit of how much you can use per week. I might want to try it for one of my major projects coming up, but only once I get a sense for how much of my tokens it's going to eat up. But I haven't used it yet. And I wouldn't say it's because I'm scared. I'm scared more of the usage of my tokens. But Opus, whatever, has been doing a great job for me.
yeah.
And I don't know. I still have this kind of stigma attached to the Fable 5 based on everything I've read in the news that just says, okay, I'm not ready for it yet. Have you guys tried it?
Yeah.
Well,
For work a bit, actually.
Pardon?
Yeah, I've tried it for work a bit, and I don't think it's that much better. Like that
Yeah.
basically reconfirms that was all just posturing for marketing. But I throw effort to highest. I have models set to Fable for when I can use it, and I try to do as much as possible. But I'm still waiting for AI to be more logical than the average human. So like your average human has an IQ of 100, right?
I'm going to
Half
say
of
you're
them,
setting the bar very low.
yeah. Now people usually think that an IQ of 100 is pretty good, but that's the average. Half of human, like as George Carlin says, think of the
Yeah,
average guy.
exactly.
Half of them are dumber than that. Now with this, like the researchers that research autism. Now I would use this as the example because of researchers and the conclusions that they put out, which are biased because they are researchers and they have a bias themselves. They're human. Now, human means that we are all flawed. So, when you put out a conclusion, your biases will be included in that. So, if they put out a conclusion on autism and they are not autistic themselves, they're going to have a bias towards that, same way as they would if they were. But with regards to that, if you ask an AI about this, what they will say that autism is an inability to relate to others, an inability to read the messages put out by body language or context.
social, yeah,
Uh,
social cues.
yeah, an inability to represent theory of mind and other various failings. Whereas if you ask autists about this, what they will say is that they're receiving too many signals. You have the signal that's being put out that's intended, and you have like 3 or 4 other signals that they have to try to decipher through to figure out which one is the one that's intended. Like is the one that's is the one that's meant to back up the thing that they're saying right now the one intended, or is it this one which is the opposite? Are they being sarcastic? Is it this one over here related to what they might actually be feeling? Like maybe they're a little bit sad or something because something happened in their daily life. I don't know. So like you've got like what autists will say is that they receive too many signals, not that they don't receive any and can't see it. It's like they receive too many. So what they're figuring out by talking to each other is that neurotypicals tend to see one and ignore the rest and just go off the assumption. And that's it. Now, what researchers said was exactly what I said. Why do autists say one thing whereas researchers say another? Well, how about theory of mind? Autists say that researchers say that autistics don't have theory of mind because if you run a test against neurotypicals and autists about what they would do with a moral situation, and you test it against if someone is looking and if someone is not, the autistic person will do it the same way both times. The neurotypical will do the immoral thing sometimes while if no one else is watching, because it's an easier way to go through it. Well, they say that this is because autists don't have theory of mind, that they don't realize that the person is that no one is watching them. Well, autists would say that, well, yeah, it's just the moral thing to do, so I just do that. And there's a complete difference in argument here. Now, why would the researchers say one thing while the autists say another? Well, I would think it's because the researchers are framing it from their perspective. It's like, well, I'm good. I'm the normal one. I'm the average here. So they must be broken somehow. Yeah. And so they put that into the conclusion. Once AI can read through the data and get past the conclusion, at that point, I'll think, okay, this is more reliable.
I think that's very well said, and probably a good place to stop for today.
Mm-hmm. David, Cordell, you guys want to do the closing today? I've been doing the closing for the first 20 episodes. I think you guys.
All right. So thank you everyone for listening to episode 23, where we continue our debates on all celestial objects, philosophies, and theories known to humankind. Today, I think we're really just trying to share our experiences about how we've used AI to code and how it's helped us, and any of the other things, maybe some of the little things that we've lost along the way. But I think what I would want people to take away from today is, it's not, as great as it is, it's you can't just rely on it to do everything for you. You do need to know a little bit about what you're doing, at least a little bit. Stay organized. Have a process, okay? Map out a process for your project before you get started. Have a governance and documentation, like at every step, make sure that you document what you did and what's next, and so that you know what you did and what what it's doing. Just never forget to document everything. Have a process, and then have some fun with it. And then you should have a good time. Other than that, thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing everyone for episode 24. Thank you.
Yep. See you guys.
Thanks. Bye.